First of all, guys and girls, I know we're running a little bit behind, but this is a unique opportunity to speak to some of the leading lights of the industry, certainly around AI. So we're just going to spend a bit of time establishing what this means and try and bring it a bit back down to earth and what it means to all of us. So first of all, Nick, welcome. Thanks for coming down. Obviously, you're from Paragon, so why don't you explain a little bit about what Paragon do and of course, how you guys in the educational sector might be using AI already?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Paragon Skills, we've been around for 25 plus years, educating people within the apprenticeship area. And we've spread our sort of wings in different areas, but we've gradually sort of focused back on health and social care as our main sector, leadership and management as well. So we've been growing the business, and for ourselves, we stripped down the business in 2014. We're an apprenticeship company. We're obviously monitored by Ofsted. And in 2014, with the old management company, they came along and downgraded us from a 1 to a 3. So that's like having a car lot, and overnight someone keying every car, and then saying, go live with that. So we had that issue going in 2014. We were owned by Sovereign Capital by then, and still own us at the moment. They came in and said, that can't be done. And they removed the whole senior management team from the business and started up again. So in 2014 to 2015, those changes happened. Now, 2014 was the time we joined the relationship with Utilise as well.
Was indeed.
That's before my time as well. Things started to change around about 2015 with the management team. And that I came along in 2016. One of my actual first requests from the head of IT who had just joined at the time was, let's get rid of that IT company that are costing us some money, and let's bring it all in-house. I questioned that because that wasn't what I sort of was learning from other things. He exited the business within 3 months, and we've continued to build a relationship with Utilise IT, and the company's grown as well. So the company grew and grew 2016, 17. We sort of taken a bit of a up and down. 2019, we started to see quite a lot of change. We really are focused on the health and social care and growing different things. By then, we'd also, working with you guys, and managed to get us education status in Microsoft, so we were using all the tools, all the goodies from Microsoft, and our guys were starting to say, hey, what's this thing called Teams? We want to use that, and started playing around that. Along comes COVID. We were one of the sort of apprenticeship companies who were able to keep teaching, providing our learners weren't furloughed, and we were trying to find ways around that as well. We were able to deliver our training through Teams, because our guys are already using it. And some of our other SaaS products as well. So we were able to grow the business, and I think in 2020 we were 130 colleagues strong. Today I created our 310 account last night, so our users are growing, that sort of thing. So those guys on the help desk have clearly seen that, our colleagues have been growing and growing, learning new skills. And we've got some badges from that as well. So our learners have voted us the best apprenticeship company in the UK. That was 95% of our learners actually joined that piece and said that. And also we won Apprenticeship Provider of the Year last year as well. So pretty tough for us this year because we've got to try and keep on top of things and that. But you guys have taken on a new client as well. So last year in September, we created something called Novia. Novia is our brand, which is our parent company now. So Novia, in September, all of a sudden acquired Paragon Skills, and they also acquired Tempdent as well. So Tempdent is a leading dentistry apprenticeship company. So their initial bit was just trying to find, if you went to your local dentist and you were told, sorry, that your dentist isn't here today and we got a locum in, Tempdent were to fill that gap. And there's some really corny companies like Cavity and things like that in the dentistry world, but filling that gap. So they did that. And what they realized is those guys need training as well. So that company, about 20 years old, has done the same thing, and we managed to acquire them through our Sovereign Capital in September. So now that growth is happening, so you guys are starting to see, obviously, Paragon Skills and Tempdent, but in terms of AI and what we're doing, we're really trying to grow our own intellectual property with our courses and that. So we've We've got AI going for everything. Of course, we've got Teams, we've got Copilot and that. But if we focus on some of the things in our business, we've got our product team who are mad about AI and wanting to build their things. But they're looking at how it can help build the courses. So our guys who are online, to begin with, we want to just build that content, and we want to make sure that content is correct, factually correct. So what you were showing just a moment ago on that piece as well. But they also want to give right and wrong answers as well to help train them in that way. And then they're saying, and what about then if it starts marking them? So can our SaaS product start to actually give them some guidance so they submit their coursework, and then it can say, well, actually, yeah, but have you considered this? Do you want to signpost to that? So it might not give them the overall qualification. That would be a little bit scary right at the moment, but can it actually give them the guidance in that way? So you've got those guys. Then you've got our quality team. So our quality team are going, well, how can we make sure that those learners have actually done it? We've been worried about plagiarism for a while, using things like Turnitin, but how can we prove they've actually done it? Should we be saying that we ban you from using ChatGPT? But that'd be dreadful, wouldn't it? Because you just demonstrated it's that way of training. But can we actually educate our learners, educate our trainers to be able to use it in an effective way? And what they're finding as well, health and social care, we find that a lot of our learners, English isn't their first language. So when they enter in what they're trying to get the answer out of ChatGPT and things like that, they're getting a skewed answer. And then when you run that through Turnitin will be saying, they've cheated, they've done this, when maybe they haven't. So it's again educating our guys to be able to say, how would you challenge that? So if Turnitin says, we think they've cheated, ask them some questions, and sort of do that sort of thing. So we've got that sort of side of things as well. And then we've got our security guys going, well, what about personal information then? And how would we do that? So all that's going on. But the great thing is we're talking about already. We're already building our AI policies, we're already building our malpractice policies and all that. So what we're trying to do is not sort of hide behind it. We're trying to dive along and use Microsoft products and different things like that to do it, and use you guys to be able to advise us on what to look at next. That's Paragon.
Hey, Nick, thank you for that, mate. And honestly, I can already hear my son having nightmares. He thinks he's got one step ahead with the ChatGPT, but that anti-plagiarism piece is, he's doing his GCSEs this year, so he's in for it, I can tell you now. Ape, look, you and I go back a long way for various companies, but obviously you're now at Microsoft. You're one of the head honchos there. So why don't you give us a bit of an insight into your role and obviously what Microsoft have been doing. Obviously, I know you made some key announcements this week alone, so
Yeah, of course,
welcome.
Indeed. Well, first of all, Guy and Utilize team, thank you for having me and having us here. Really excited to be here. Wishing you all the best for 2024. Can I just say what a great customer you have in Nick, using Microsoft technology. Best customer you've got, right, by far. Yeah, look, I think in order to explain kind of where we're at, it's good to ground us on our mission and what we're about. And so you'll know that our mission is grounded in empowering every individual and organization to achieve more, right? So, and that's very important when you start to think about what it is we're trying to do with AI. And it's really focused on 4 key areas. Matt actually covered all of them really well and probably did my job better than I'm about to do on this. One is really enriching that employee experience, right? So how do I increase productivity, my quality, et cetera? That's the first thing. And you'll see that being built into all the applications that you use today, be it Word, Excel, PowerPoint, through Copilots, and of course, ChatGPT. Second one is really around reinventing that customer engagement. How do we supercharge customer engagement, and what does that really look like? If I give you an example on that, I was talking to a board of a theatre company. They have multiple sites and have different shows. What they're trying to do is really understand their customers and want to understand, hey, Guy, we know Guy comes and he particularly likes what's your, I know, I've got to be very careful with this. Let's go, I'm going to go Les Miserables, right? I'm going to be very nice to you and kind to you on that, right? Exactly. And we know that he likes his Dom Perignon. And we know that whenever he comes in, it has to be chilled at a certain temperature. But the problem they have currently is if you turn up, they don't actually know which site the site that you've turned up to has got Dom Perignon. It actually may be in a different site. But as they get far more tuned to you and to their supply chain, they know, hey, Guy's coming, so that stock that's over here, we need to move it over here. customer insights, and that's very much AI-driven insights has come. So that's reinventing that customer engagement.
Happening now, right?
That's happening now, and that's possible. It's through. Sorry, I'm going to do a plug on our product, right? Azure Cognitive Services. It's in there. I'm sure you can do a far better chat around this. And then you move on to the third thing that it's about, which is really that looking at processes, right? And how do we reshape processes? And what you're seeing out there today is customers are looking at how do we improve cross-functional interaction. If I go back to this example around the theatre company, you have operations wanting to understand, okay, who's buying what tickets? F&B, which is their food and beverage, wanting to know, okay, what inventory do we have? What inventory is being sold at what rate, right? So that's all operational. Marketing want to know, okay, when do we need to do real-time promotions? Because again, I'm going to pick on you, Guy. Right, we know Guy's coming in, but we want to not just get him to buy Dom Perignon. We do have some aperitifs that we want him to buy. So let's do a promotion that's specific to you. How do we build that into as part of our processes so it links to knowing what's going on in terms of what we have in our inventory? All of that process re-engineering is there and it's possible today. So that's process reshaping, right? And then the fourth thing is really about how do you reinvent, right? So bending the curve of invention. Again, Matt did a great job in all the different things that you're seeing currently today, but also will be coming down in the future. But the reality is, it's how do we invent, right, innovate a lot quicker today than ever before, and that's the tooling that we're bringing to bear that allows organizations to really bend that curve of innovation. So it's really about those four things when you think about, and within the foundation of our mission around essentially empowering organizations and individuals to achieve more.
Fantastic. Goodness me. A lot going on. And a lot here and now, like, honestly.
Yeah.
And for us, we were talking about it earlier, actually, Ape, so you might not have heard this, but obviously, we were talking about the speed in which we need to improve and take on board new products and learn and all of those things. So as a technology company, we've got to bring that in-house and own it, right? So that's what we're working on. So I guess that sort of leads me on to you, Paul. Like, for everyone here speaking to customers right now, how do we bring this, and what should we be talking to our customers about, like, right now? Because obviously there's a lot coming, but how do we translate that to now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, after watching Matt's presentation, I think we should all stockpile non-perishable foods. I feel like the apocalypse is coming. No, I think the most accessible product we have in AI right now will be Copilot for Microsoft 365. Most of our customers are in the 365 ecosystem. They're already using that licensing, that data. But what we need to do is kind of temper them a little bit, bring them back a step, and talk about the functional productivity, which we have discussed before. But it's about making sure they have the correct licensing, the data's in the correct location, it's secured properly, you have the compliance labeling in place as well. It's not a grab some licenses, throw them on the tenant, away you go kind of scenario. So we're going to be having, professional service around that readiness piece.
So that's the data and that's the security. Those two key pieces.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so that's the conversation we need to be having right now, getting that ready. And I think you even talked about it in one of your webinars that we've done recently about that foundational productivity. So, thank you, Paul. So Matt, again, thank you for an amazing presentation. So, look, you're in my shoes, right? So I'm going to put you in my shoes now. What would you do as a technology company right now? Like, where would you be placing your bets? What would you do? And that's probably an unfair question. But.
No, it's a fair question. So I would suggest a number of different areas. Okay, so up and down the pipeline as well. So cybersecurity is only going to be a huge growing problem. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. When we have a look at cyber, so for those of you who don't know me, basically I ran IBM's Homeland Security teams. That's it. I develop national security frameworks and operate a lot in that particular space. Now, at the moment, basically you are being hacked and generally targeted on purpose or accidentally by hacktivists that are creating malware and ransomware, and then they're just either targeting you specifically, state-sponsored actors, or you're just being caught in the net because I sent 1 billion emails and you just happened to click the one that said, don't click this link, right? That kind of stuff. So at the moment, basically, when we have a look at cyber, humans are definitely in the loop. However, we're already seeing, and we've been seeing this really for the past 5 years, the weaponization of artificial intelligence to the point where artificial intelligence goes full auto. Now, what we mean by full auto is DARPA, the US military, would develop capture the flag competitions, and using artificial intelligence, the AIs autonomously, which is the key word there, not automated, autonomously, would scan 40 million lines of code and say, I found an exploit. Do you want me to do one of two things? Do you want me to patch it or exploit it? So last year we saw a 125% increase in the number of cyber attacks. We saw over half a trillion malware attempts as well, which is just a crazy number. And there is not a single person in any industry that doesn't think cyber isn't just going to do this. So I think cyber is an opportunity. Cyber is an opportunity, let alone anything else. And from a vendor perspective, the vast majority of vendors as well as engagements say, think about security holistically across the entire organization. So it touches everything that you do, from the infrastructure to the apps to the data. The other thing I'd kind of suggest basically is kind of consultancy and advisory. Now, the reason why I say this is when you have a look at the majority of your funnels, the clients that you're working very closely with, where you're getting an 80%, renewal rate, will say, guys, you are providing us with our telco system today, and I heard Brian in the other part of the organization talking about a problem, a collaboration problem, or an IT problem, or an application problem, or whatever it happens to be. So the clients that you're already in will be giving you a heads up on problems, which means you can be the first partner in there to have a conversation about, look, Brian, I heard from John that you've got a project and a problem as utilized, we can maybe help you. And then you can craft the RFIs and you can craft the RFPs, and you basically have a hand on the wheel of that project, right? Now, the other projects that you get visibility of is where I just go, I came across Utilize, I thought I'd drop an RFP to you and just see how you go. And most win rates, basically on new business, are generally, 3%? Marketing people tell me they'll cut my arm off basically if I can get 4, or 3.5%. But maybe they just don't like me. So the reason basically why, there's a couple of reasons why consultancy and advisory. So firstly, the pace of technological change, let alone global, political, and everything else change, is so fast now that I guarantee there's not a single one of your clients, whether they are existing clients or to-be clients, that says, we don't know what's coming. The stuff that's here, what do we do with it? How should we think about this stuff from a business perspective, when we're developing products, when we're going into markets? And then once we've figured out that we like this new technology, this new thing, how do we embed it? How do we implement it within our IT stack, in our business? So by operating an advisory and consultancy, being a thought leadership in the space, clients, on the one hand, come to you first and say, look, new technology, it's just complicated, horrible, we don't understand it. Just tell us, what is it, why is it, and what can we do with it? That gets you to the top of the funnel, because you then say, well, if this is what it can do, and you think that improving employee productivity by 20% is interesting, then as Utilize, this could be a project. And let me bring in the service delivery guys and the team to talk to you about how we implement this project. You create your own projects. You go all the way to the top of the pipe. Now, I did that with IBM. I was global head of sales basically at Atos. We smashed HP out of every single account we went into. We went from $0 basically on Atos Cloud to $2.1 billion. It's by going up to that top of the stack, all of a sudden, you're the one steering the RFP. Yeah. You're not just having it land on your desk.
Got to keep leading the way.
You've got the business relationship with the key stakeholders before the business is even being developed. So that's roughly 2 areas I would go into. But then the other area, because you talk about, telecom, applications and infrastructure, it's kind of 2 parts to this, is productivity. The vast majority of your competitors are going into clients and saying, so let's talk about automation, right? RPO. Let's talk about how we can improve the efficiency of your organization via automation. No one's really talking about, so you have a huge number of people in the room. Let's talk about how we get even more from them. Let's talk about how we augment them with technology, not automate them out of the business with technology. You can still do the automation piece, but you get the automation piece and the augmentation piece, and then your marketing is differentiated. And then on sustainability, so I was the keynote at COP28 recently. I would actually suggest, so I do a lot of work with WPP. So WPP and Dentsu are the world's largest marketing organizations and so on and so forth. In order to differentiate yourself, I would suggest a little tweak. Okay? So, if you were a net zero business today, then in the words of kind of the United Nations and Greta Thunberg, as a planet, what we would do is we would simply put the fires out in our house, but you'd still have a burnt down house, right? So net zero gets you to the point where your house isn't on fire, the planet isn't on fire. I would suggest if you wanted to differentiate yourself in the marketplace even more on the sustainability piece, you don't talk about sustainability, you talk about regeneration. So you don't say we're going to go carbon neutral. You say we're going to go carbon negative. We're going to help regenerate the planet, and then that ties through to your community programs. So regeneration, not sustainability.
Okay, so that 3-year target I was talking about earlier suddenly sounds unambitious.
Right.
So, yeah, thanks.
But that's the sort of thing. It's,
No, that's
you know, when we have a look at all these different things, the fact is you're in a highly competitive market space. You know, differentiation and the relationships that you have with clients and your vendors base is absolutely everything. And that I do feel that there are these little threads that you can actually pull on to differentiate yourself and put yourself in prime position and, frankly, put the opposition on the back foot.
No, that's phenomenal advice. Thank you, Matt. And listen, like we were already on some of those tracks, so we're investing heavily in security, like for a start. Yeah. It's baked into our sort of Ascend offering. You probably
Right, can I just pick up on something
Yeah,
and build
go for
on
it.
something Matt just said there around advisory and consultancy, because that's probably the hottest thing at the moment to really think about. We have, I don't know what numbers you've got for this year, but I can tell you, you're going to smash them. There's 5.3 million Copilot seats in SMB alone that are today eligible for Copilot, so they're out there. But the reality is it's not as simple as, hey, let's just buy some Copilot licenses, off you go. You are going to look at advice. What we're learning from the early access program is that customers need help to understand, okay, how do I implement this? In fact, Nick and I were having a conversation about this, Selling Signal, whoever Nick's account manager is. Nick we were talking about, he asked me a question, look, we're trying to figure out actually how many of the licenses we buy now and in terms of where we put them and what it's going to mean to us. And what we're finding, for example, is it's not about onesie twosie as an example. I'm not trying to sell you, Nick, and get lots of licenses, but it is about, at the very least, do you know what, let's pick a department and get actually the license in the department, because once you've got a whole department on the Copilot, the time to value is actually reduced, and they're able to see that value a lot quicker, but you need to help them with that journey. The other thing that we're also seeing is that you will have heard our term, we talk about selling to the rooms of the house. Make no mistake, it doesn't matter whether it's in SMB, it doesn't matter whether it's mid-market, it doesn't matter whether it's enterprise. As Matt talked about, you are going to need to know your customer. You have to understand the industry they're in. You have to understand the various rooms, be it marketing, operations, finance, whoever. You need to start to understand who they are, what their challenges are, what are the things that they're really they're grappling with today, and then what's the technology that's going, so what's the business outcome we're really trying to drive, and how does AI or how does technology really help us meet? That today is far more important. Now, I think it was Gartner that came out with a report recently and said, any organization that isn't today thinking about installing some kind of AI technology into their operation is basically on its way out. It just doesn't know it is. And then I think it was IDC that pointed out that for every $1 that a customer spends or an organization spends on AI, the return is $3.5, right? Just think about that. $1, you get a return of $3.5, and that return to value, that time to value is now shrunk down to about 14 months, right? And that's outside of a Copilot. So just think about those stats and those numbers and what you could do, how you could be supercharging not only your own organization as utilized, but also what you could be doing for your own customers.
Oh, and that's a great point, because we were talking earlier about understanding our customer and obviously really getting to know their businesses and outside of a standard infrastructure conversation. And we talked about sort of vertical specialization, and so that really plays to that point. And I guess just layering that up, like how important do you feel skills are, like in terms of investing in our skills? How important is that to this conversation?
Me or
Yeah.
Incredibly.
Yeah.
Skills are everything. One of the biggest problems that I see globally when you're having conversations with CEOs of any companies, they will typically say, so some of the problems that I have basically are, I am worried about the rate of technological or technology-led disruption, that kind of stuff. Number 2 or number 3 is pretty much always, my other problem is hiring and then kind of retaining talent. Now, consider this. So I was in Riyadh a little while ago, basically, and I sat down with the COO of HSBC. We had the finance minister of Saudi there and a couple of other organizations. And you had the COO of HSBC going, the problem that we have at the moment is we just cannot get enough data scientists, et cetera, right? And I said, well, HSBC, basically, when you actually kind of project out the kind of roles that you'll actually need in the future, that's relatively straightforward to plan out, And I said, well, the other problem that eventually you're going to have is we're seeing quantum computing already coming through. And how many programs are there within HSBC that say, okay, so you're a data scientist today. In the next 5 years, we're going to see quantum computing becoming much more available. I won't say mainstream, but available. And do you have any quantum data scientists on your roadmap? No. Right, so we will sit down in Riyadh again in 5 years' time, and you will say, the problem that I have is I cannot get enough quantum computer specialists and quantum data scientists, right? So if you're able to see the skills that you actually need this year, next year, even a few years down the line, then you can start adapting your learning and development programs today to say, okay, you're a data scientist today. We see quantum computing being in demand in the future, so we're going to actually put you on a course to do that. So by the time these new emerging technologies are being talked about by your customers, maybe not mainstream, you can say, yeah, we've got that person. Accenture are the prime example. Accenture went from a $20 billion company to a $61 billion revenue company. They made 17,000 positions redundant because they could actually see how many positions were going to be automated. But they retrained everybody. They saw the positions that were going to be less valuable to the organization and or automated and put in a program. And so when they made 17,000 jobs redundant, not a single person was made redundant because everybody moved to the new roles.
And I think that's a genuine worry, right? Like people are worried about that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's a really cool example.
Yeah, and that's where we bring in company culture. Because, when you have a look at OpenAI statistics, OpenAI basically have said we can either partially or fully automate 80% of jobs. People didn't think that we could automate coders. I've been talking about it for a decade. Stories in itself. Eventually we can. But as humans, we are able to learn new things. With artificial intelligence, we can learn those new things at speed. And then if you have an organization that says, okay, you used to be this kind of person in this job, and we've trained you to be this kind of person in this new role, you retain your staff. You increase staff loyalty. There's a value to the business in that. Externally, your customers see that. You become the place people want to be because you can see what's coming along the line. And skills are absolutely vital, but the ability to adapt and learn at speed is crucial. And that comes down to the learning and development programs that you have, the culture that you have, basically where are you headed conversations. And then just on the AI piece, because you asked about new line of business. If you look at advisory and consulting, one of the underappreciated areas of the UK basically is we have no AI auditing capabilities. And if you want to check bias, the number of clients that you have that will be starting to implement artificial intelligence in one form or another to make decisions, to apply credit to a person or not, or take it away. AI auditing is also another, I think, area that is increasingly important that none of your competitors are on. People are on the cyber bandwagon, but the auditing piece, and that's a conversation we can have. That gets you into clients in another way again.
Interesting. Goodness me. I haven't got a notepad big enough, so it's a good job this is being recorded, Jay, right? Paul, like that leads me like nicely into like how do we get this rolling, right? So how do we take what we've learned, take everything we've heard today, and how do we get the ball rolling? Because obviously it's paramount we do that quickly.
Yeah, definitely. We're looking to launch an AI competition. We want to have everyone looking at where we can use AI and solutions for our customers or for ourselves. And we're going to have a £1,000 prize on that as well.
So, and this came from a conversation that me and Ape and Paul had some time ago. So just to be clear, we're launching an AI competition. More details to come.
More details to come, next week. I would say one thing, automation is not AI. For you, Paul?
You just heard that. Yeah. So the most innovative use of AI, either for ourselves or for our customer, wins £1,000.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Powerful.
And Nick, right, let's just wrap this up, and then we'll turn it out to the audience. So if you've got any questions for the panel here, guys and girls, then think of some. We'll have Amy running around with her microphone very shortly. But Nick, like everything you've heard today, as a customer of ours and as a loyal customer of ours, and we thank you for that. How can we help you further? How can we help you now? Obviously, enable this and obviously take advantage of all of these things. But also, how can we help you in the future? How do you see that relationship evolving?
Probably the biggest thing. We're an education company, but it's education and awareness. And I sort of take on board what you said, Matt. But we're challenged because we deliver in health and social care. It needs a certain individual. Normally people who've had experience in that area. Some of our guys who bring on board, when we're doing the induction, almost find it a joke to say, I don't do IT. And yet we look and say, well, we're almost a tech ed company, and we've just employed you, and that's your opening line to me, not that great. But at the same time, they may have skills in other areas that they need to deliver. So for us, it's one, trying to not frighten them off and teach them some of the technology that can actually help them. Certainly awareness is in the cyber thing. So we're going through ISO 27001 at the moment. David Tuck and the team have helped us over the years get Cyber Essentials Plus. Now we're doing the ISO 27001. That's hopefully going to go in May. But we're sort of talking to some people and they just glaze over because they're just not interested. But then you try and put it then into their world to say, well, what about your own personal data and things like that and how that's managed? So it is really looking upon you guys saying, what tech can we use, but also how can we deliver it in a language that our guys can understand and want to embrace it? And then how can we start to look at the next sort of group of new colleagues coming into business, and how can we actually on our radar make sure we're getting in those right individuals to be able to pass that message on as the generations change. So that's where we'd be looking on you guys really to help us identify those things and get that training and awareness out to our colleagues.
We're there with you, Nick. Excellent.
Nice.
I just want to just pick on something there as well, and more linked to the announcement Paul just made around your competition. I think it's important to think about Copilots as your cognitive exoskeleton. That's the first thing. And the reason I kind of want to put in that term is that it's important. We talk about AI and have one of the things with the post office drama, and let me tell you what really sticks with me on this, and I can't believe I actually brought that even into this particular conversation, but is that that is an example of where we took the machine's answer and ignored the human. When we do that, then that's when we're in trouble as human beings, right? Humanity must be at the center of this. So when you think about that, then think about, right, what am I able to do today that I wasn't able to do yesterday when I think about the cognitive services that are available to me, or what is the AI technologies available to me. That's the way you should think about it, as a cognitive exoskeleton, but ultimately, me as the human, how does it help me in what I do? How does it help me deliver better quality, or improve my volume, etc.? But it's got to be human at the center of it. Never lose sight of that. And when you're talking to your customers, as you're out there trying to figure out, as they're trying to figure out what to do, human at the start, human at the end, and then the technology in the middle. That's always going to be the reality for us. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Great point. Ape, I couldn't have put that better myself, honestly. It's fantastic. Guys, thank you ever so much. Now, we've got a couple of minutes, probably got time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience. So has anyone got any questions for either Matt, Nick, or Ape, or indeed Paul?
Don't be shy.
Go on, Jace.
It's more for Ape, really. I think what are Microsoft doing, what are the plans to influence like SaaS providers, people with the lion's share of their data outside the Microsoft stack? So in their SaaS products, what are you doing to influence them to create plugins to allow Copilot to access that data, or rather than them developing their own AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, let me give you outside of an Ape view first, right? And then I'm going to give you the kind of the Microsoft and some of the stuff we're doing. One of the things you're going to hear more and more is, you've heard about marketplaces and cloud marketplace. Do you know what's coming? It's going to be Copilot marketplaces. And I think you're going to also see AI marketplaces. And if you think about how Satya talks about our AI strategy, one of the things he talks about, it's open source, right? We've been very clear about that. And we've, certainly since Satya's became CEO, he's been very clear about trying to be far more of an open organization when it comes to our technology. So then when you look at things like our ISV strategy, you'll see that we're very strong on driving, whether it's early startup ISVs all the way through to more established global ISVs. And it's about bringing that ecosystem into the Microsoft platform. So you're absolutely going to see us do more and more of that. And it is about partnering, certainly with, there's not the old Microsoft of, you're an adversary, you're a competitor. Actually, no, we need to figure out how do we together work within the same platform. So it's improving and increasing that ISV ecosystem for sure. And it is and the other thing I'll touch on that is also that what we are seeing out there in the market is that, particularly in the market that you serve, there is more and more a reality that your customers are looking to buy rather than build, right? And so that means that, to your question, why your question is so important, that means we need to have more and more SaaS providers actually as part of our own ecosystem. Yeah.
A bit of a glimpse into the future potentially there.
A little bit of a glimpse into the future. There you go.
Guys and girls, I know we're running behind, so I know we're stood between you and lunch right now, and I've just got the look. So I'm going to cut it short, guys. So thank you ever so much. Thank you, Matt, Nick, and Ape, and of course, Paul, for joining us.
Thank you.